Welcome back to the In All Kinds of Weather forecast. I am your host, Neil Shulman, riding solo tonight. Chris Yanes has some real life obligations he's got to attend to. So for tonight, it's just me riding solo at All Kinds Weather on Twitter, at All Kinds Weather on Instagram. We are talking tonight about the Gators 2025 recruiting class following its conclusion of the cycle on signing day on December 4th. Before we get into any of that, though, please be sure to smash that subscribe button, give a comment about your thoughts about the Gators class, tell your friends, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review on Apple Podcast, all that good stuff that just helps us reach more Gator fans. Before we get into the crux of the episode, quickly got to shout out our sponsor. The All Kinds of Weather forecast is sponsored by 401k Generation, the wealth management company that helps you invest today for your future tomorrow. Their team of advisors is committed to providing guidance and education for your 401k plan and its participants, and they also offer a range of enrollment solutions tailored to meet the unique needs of your company's 401k plan. Whether it is saving for your child's college, investment advice, or even just your retirement, 401k Generation's team of advisors makes getting to know you their top priority. Their advisors will tailor a path to assist you in navigating life's financial milestones and reaching your financial goals. 401k Generation, building stronger futures, one generation at a time. For more information, please contact them at 866 998 5879 or visit their website at 401kgeneration.com. Also, got to shout out our merch partner, Heads and Tails. Love these hats. They're very comfy. Got to give them a shout as well. For those FSU fans who are maybe, I don't want to say troll listening because you guys got sledgehammered by the Gators, but if you are a Knoll fan and you're just listening because you're a masochist, well, they do have FSU apparel as well. But for the most part, we're here to market the Gator content that they have to offer you guys, and they are your one-stop shop for everything Florida Gators merch related. You can use code IAKOW30 to get 30% off of your order in-store or online. They are Tampa-based, but they ship anywhere in the country. So go ahead and get your order in now at theheadsandtails.com and get yourself some gear for the holidays. I believe they have also, if you're a Bucks fan, if you're a South Florida Bull fan, they have pretty much everything that you want as a Tampa sports fan, plus the Gators and the Knolls. So that's our sponsors. We love our sponsors. We also love this recruiting class. The class is done, minus Tayshawn Gelsey now. No real shockers to leave the class. He wants to be a receiver. Florida wants him to play tight ends. Okay, shake your hand. Best of luck to you. Go elsewhere. Anyway, without him, though, the class the Gators have consists of quite a haul. Without sugarcoating this, it's a very good class. We'll talk about how it stacks up to what we thought it might have been later. But for now, it is important to celebrate the fact that Florida got a lot of big-time players. Vernell Brown III, a 4/5-star receiver, depending on the ranking system you trust most. The offer list that he's got is a 5-star offer list. If you can kind of tell if there's a quote unquote committable or uncommittable offer based on that, if there are any other offers like it or not. This kid also had offers from Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Michigan, Ole Miss, Oregon, Texas A&M, Tennessee, USC. He's one of the more highly coveted guys in the country. That is a certified baller that Florida got there. Ben Hanks Jr., another guy, along with Vernell Brown, who are continuing on their family legacies of playing for the Florida Gators. He's a 4-star corner from Booker T. Washington down in Miami. Vernell Brown III coming from Orlando, so that's a nice job there of holding down the fort in the state of Florida. Jaden Woods is the next guy, according to the 247 Sports composite rankings, on their ratings list to commit to Florida, the third highest guy in the class. Jaden Woods is another one. He's another one that you look at and go, that's a guy, when you watch his tape, that's a guy who can produce for the Florida Gators. He was committed to Penn State for quite a while, flipped to Florida just before signing day. He is a Gator as well. We are psyched to have him. Hilton Stubbs, another 4-star that Florida got. This one, again, from the state of Florida, with Jaden Woods coming from Shawnee, Kansas. Back to the state of Florida, we go to Jacksonville and Mandarin specifically for Hilton Stubbs, a guy that I had pegged a long time ago as one of the top 10 guys to look at in the class for the Florida Gators. This is back in January of 24, just after the last cycle wrapped up. I wrote a piece talking about the top 10 guys to watch for the Gators to land. Gators didn't get a whole lot of them, but they did get some of them. Hilton Stubbs, one of those guys. Big time player that Florida got. Initially committing to USC, that didn't work. Then committed to Miami. He didn't stick there either. He is now a Florida Gator, signed, sealed, and delivered. Tavares Dice from Fairburn, Georgia. A nice flip that Florida got away from the Auburn Tigers. That's going to be a huge pickup for the Gators, especially because of what they have on the offensive line and what they're not going to have next year on the offensive line. We're expecting the Gators to lose multiple starters on that offensive line, especially including at tackle, with Austin Barber having completed his fourth season. Lagonza Hayward, another flip that Florida got. Sensing a theme here. Billy Napier did flip a lot of guys late from Toombs County in Lyons, Georgia, a former Tennessee Vol commit. That didn't stick. He chose to play for the Florida Gators. That's a nice pickup there as well. Jalen Wiggins, one of the longest standing commits that Florida has. Fun fact about Jalen Wiggins, he went to the same high school as my mother in Tallahassee, Florida, James Rickards in Tallahassee. He is, again, one of the first commits of this class. He is a Gator, signed, sealed, delivered as well. He is a 6'5" edge guy that can cause all kinds of problems. We'll talk later about superlatives, maybe in terms of who's going to be the most likely to play right away. Probably not going to be Jalen Wiggins, but he's going to be up there in terms of the highest upside. So keep your eye out for him as the spring and summer progress to see how he is adapting to SEC football. Ty Jackson from Loxahatchee, Florida, who decided to play for the USC Trojans until the Empire collapsed in Los Angeles, and he was flipped by Florida to come play for the Gators. Another nice linebacker pull after the Gators got two a year ago in Miles Graham and in Aaron Childs. Seems to be a nice linebacker room developing there, and not even a room, but more lineage. He won't play with Shamar James for more than a year, and that's if James comes back. But the Gators are getting some nice linebacker play after what we've seen from Shamar James and then what we saw from true freshman Graham and Childs this year. Another nice pickup for the Gators at linebacker. Joseph Mbachu. Boy, what a story this was. First committed to Florida. We talked all about how, this kid is raw. He's coming from, where is he coming from? Oh, he's coming from, what is that, Africa? Cameroon? Well, Cameroon guy. Okay, cool. Does he know football? Well, not really. He played basketball a lot as a kid. Oh, he also played rugby. Oh, now we're starting to see the gears turning a little bit. Rugby, there's a bit of hand placement involved. It's kind of similar to football. The physical athleticism is there. Can he be molded into an SEC defensive lineman? The Gator coaches certainly think he can. The Texas Longhorn coaches certainly thought he could, as they flipped him away from Florida for maybe a week and then a little longer than that, but not for very long. And then the Gators simply took him right back at the 11th hour. Nice pickup there. Waltez Clark from Plant in Tampa, Florida. A nice pickup at running back for the Florida Gators. He was the first one to commit in this class. He was the first one to send in his letter of intent on Wednesday morning. Waltez Clark, a four-star running back that I think, again, we're going to lose Montreal Johnson. We're going to have Jaden Ball, Jacoby Jackson back. There's some competition there, maybe with Trayon Webb. You got to see who may be the odd man out there, but I like Waltez Clark to maybe get some playing time early on, assuming he progresses through spring and summer ball very well. Those are the guys, according to the 247 Sports composite rankings, that are 4 stars. Now we move on to the 3 stars, but here's where we get some potential hidden gems. You've got a Tramel Jones commitment about, by the time this drops, it'll still be less than a week ago. Tramel Jones, a 247 Sports composite 4-star, I should say. He is the last one to be a 247 Sports composite 4-star on this Gators class. He is a quarterback from Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. That sounds familiar. It is because he is not the first Mandarin kid we have talked about so far. He is high school teammates with Hilton Stubbs. That we think, maybe not necessarily as cut and dried as this is a package deal, but that that teammate ship, that teamwork, certainly you think had to have played at least some factor in his committing to Florida. The question becomes, does he have a path to playing time at Florida? Well, he might, because you think with DJ Lagway entrenched as a starter for at least one more year, the kid will redshirt. And then when Lagway is a junior, he'll use his freshman season, and then he would be a sophomore still with another year of eligibility after that. 2 years of eligibility, actually, after that, if he wants it. So is there a path to playing time? Yes, there is. This is not just you have to take a quarterback in every class sort of take. This kid can play. He's the number 21 ranked QB in the class of 2025, which is, again, not DJ Lagway status in terms of ranking, but still respectable. So yes, there's a path to seeing him play for the Florida Gators. After Tramel Jones, we talk about Nashawn Montgomery. He is one that I think could be a star from Miami Central in Miami, Florida. Nashawn Montgomery is a 247 Sports composite 4-star. He got that rating bump late. He was initially a 3-star, bumped up to a 4-star on the composite rankings. The number 22 receiver in the class. This kid has a lot of skills that the Florida Gators could potentially use. He's got speed. He's not, he's 6'1", so you can't say he's small, but not the biggest receiver, but he can fly and he can make moves in the open field. So definitely look forward to see what he can do for the Gators on the field. Byron Lewis, the next one from American Heritage in Fort Lauderdale, same high school as James Houston. And I say this less enthusiastically as Marco Wilson, but a former FSU commit. That didn't last long. He took one look at their record and went, I'm out. No, not really. It wasn't quite that simple, but certainly the Seminoles collapse this season had something to do with his decision to flip along with the Gators' rise at the end of the year. The second running back in the class that Florida took, along with Waltez Clark, Florida, you think is good there for quite some time. Stephon Shivers from Brentwood Academy in Brentwood, Tennessee. This is maybe a wild card. He is a composite 3-star, but the fact that the Georgia Bulldogs really wanted him says something. There's an offer, and then he was committed to Georgia for quite some time. So, I mean, to be precise, I think it was from March till November. So quite some time that he spent as a Georgia Bulldog commit. Florida flips him at the end. Gators are going to get his services on the defensive line. Moise Tonkara, I believe that's how you pronounce it. If I'm wrong, I am so sorry. I'll learn. From Clear Springs High School in League City, Texas, a wide receiver that Florida flipped away from the Arizona Wildcats. Nice pickup there for depth, if nothing else. He could potentially see himself playing in the not too distant future. We'll talk about that later. But if nothing else, a nice depth piece. Then there's Micah Jones, a tight end from Madison Central in Madison, Mississippi. And then we've got Jeremiah McLeod from Leesburg, Georgia on the defensive line, composite 3-star ranking there. Florida also got a third running back in this class from Katy Jordan High School in Fulshear, Texas, Chad Gasper. Jahari Medlock, an offensive tackle. Daniel Pierre-Louis, another flip away from FSU from Loxahatchee. Evan Noel, rated as a 3-star because they don't give kickers 5-star ratings, but he is the number 1 kicker in the country in this 2025 class. Can't be mad about that. And then Hayden Craig, who is similarly a 3-star, but also he's worth a little bit more than that. Punters are people too. Shout out, Nick. Good luck at your new job at Florida Victorious. The number 7 punter in the country, according to 247 Sports Composite. So that is the Gators 2025 class. It is a good one. Florida got a very good recruiting class. I am not complaining about it. There are some certified ballers in that class. And whenever you get those faxes coming in whenever you get your class completed and you go to bed on Wednesday night, after the last facts came in and you know what you got and you've given your presser, you've eaten dinner, you go to sleep as the head coach of the Florida Gators. If you look at your roster and you say, I think we filled our needs here, I think we filled most of our needs here. And what needs we didn't feel, what needs we didn't feel, what needs we didn't fill. It's been a very long day for me. What needs we did not fill, we feel we can fill in the transfer portal in the next few weeks. You did your job. If that's the case, you did your job. I think that's where Billy Napier feels he is. And by any objective measure, the number 11 class in the country is good. That's a good class. It's just not the elite level class that we anticipated Billy Napier being able to bring in. That is the concern. Florida is still a step behind Texas, behind Georgia, behind Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, LSU, and so on. They're still a step behind those elite programs. They're not 40 steps behind them. They're not light years behind them. They're not, locked in this marathon with them and they're just passing mile marker 3 and those guys are crossing the finish line. They're a step behind them. It's not like Florida is recruiting down with the likes of Massachusetts or Nevada or Wyoming or FSU. See what I did there? It's going to be a fun 365 days, FSU fans. Enjoy. But anyway, the gap between Florida and those top schools is not so great that Florida cannot catch up with them with some great portal additions. The fact of the matter is there is still a gap. And here is where we talk about the misses. Dallas Wilson. Got to start there. Or a Jamie French or a Solomon Thomas. Florida did not land any of them as of this recording. Nothing crazy has happened with any of them. There is the possibility, of course, that, after someone signs, they could potentially ask to be released from their letter of intent. We saw that play out with Jaden Rashada, which is still going to scar me. So now I'm of the mindset that even when it's signed, sealed, delivered, you don't really hold your breath until spring ball starts. But he is signed with LSU. We're going to assume he's not coming to Florida. I think we could make a reasonable assumption that he will not play for Florida. So Florida went 0-3 on those big fish, Wilson, French, and Thomas. Landing even one of those three is the difference between a good class and a great class for Florida. That's what puts Florida in the top 10 in both 247 Sports Composite and the On3 industry rankings. Landing two of them is what makes the difference between a good class and an elite class. And now we are heading into year 4, and Billy Napier still does not have an elite class to show for it. He does not have a top 3 class. He does not have a top 5 class. He had past tense with a D at the end of that HA word, not had one last year. It fell apart. He had to scramble and bust his tail just to salvage a top 15 class. Some elite pieces in there, for sure. DJ Lagway is an elite quarterback. Miles Graham is going to be an elite linebacker. LJ McCray will be an elite defensive lineman. I would even say Cam Jackson on the defensive line was an elite portal piece. I will stand on that take all day long. Same with Ricky Pearsall, another elite portal take for the Florida Gators. Elite pieces here and there, sure. Never an elite class overall. This is the concern. Now, that said, a concern is not necessarily a complaint. It could turn into a complaint, but it's not a complaint yet. This is just me saying, okay, look, there's a pretty obvious reason to believe why things might not be great. I cannot for certain say that they will never get to be great, so I'm willing to sit back and wait and see. And we've seen some of Napier's evaluations look like really smart evaluations. We've seen Bryce Thornton, 3-star. That looks like a pretty good take right about now. Don't you guys agree with that? Jaden Baugh, 3-star. Looks like a pretty good eval right there, huh? Najee Harris on the offensive line. Good job, Billy. Jacoby Jackson through JUCO, another 3-star. So here's the point. Whereas I'm all over Billy for some of his, and I will stand on this adjective for some of his idiotic play calls and in-game CEO decisions. I think he's absolutely objectively earned my trust and respect for his abilities to go and find diamonds in the rough. And really, honestly, if we're going to miss on 5 stars, I'd rather than be at receiver. First of all, because we already have one elite receiver in the class in Vernell Brown. I don't really care what the recruiting rankings say. You look at what he puts on tape and you say, yeah, that's a guy that could be a Bolitnikoff winner or a first round NFL draft pick or an All American. That's a guy that you can build a program around with DJ Lagway. That connection can be a program changer for you. So yeah, screw the rankings. Elite right there. Second of all, because with not only Vernell Brown in the class, but with Trey Wilson, with Aiden Mizell coming back for their 3rd years in the program, plus Tank Hawkins and TJ Abrams coming back for their 2nd years in the program, Florida's got a good bit of depth here. And third of all, because Florida was almost certainly going portal anyway for another receiver, whether we got Dallas Wilson or Jamie French or both of them. So I don't love it, but I'm okay with it. I can objectively say I make peace with that. Fine. I don't like how it went down. There are, there are the screenshots that are going around. I'm sorry, Blake Alderman, but your screenshots everywhere now, so I'm not leaking anything. The screenshots say that he had been in very close contact with Florida and Miami, and he had told them that he was coming. And I had been told this as of this morning. I had a text before the sun even came up. I checked my phone as I went out to a networking event for my real job, and there's a text from someone at 5:30 in the morning that said Dallas Wilson was coming. He told Miami he was coming. He told Florida he was coming. So I said, okay, great. We've got him. I went to my networking event. I prepped the article. I knew better than to publish it, but I had it prepared. I had analysis on him all ready to go. And then I get a text from Chris, my co-host, who says, yeah, he's not coming. He trolled us all. I go, what? Yeah, he trolled us all. Then the screenshots get leaked from the 247 Sports message boards saying that, he told Florida and Miami he was coming. And then there was you can't knock him for this. There's a reason listed on there about how his mom is no longer with him, but the Oregon campus and just playing for the Ducks, it's something special to him because of his late mother. If that's the case, okay, there's really not a whole lot you can do about that. If it's a case of Uncle Phil, Phil Knight just dropping bags, okay, well, Florida's not going to pay tens of billions of dollars. Not that it was that much, but you get the point. There's a budget here. There's a limit. There's reason. There's logic. Hey, reason and logic say this kid is not worth that much money. We're not going to pay that. Was Florida's or were Florida's boosters right on that? Were they incorrect on that? True, false? Not. I'm not saying that one way or another. It's not my money. I'm not the one paying for it. That's just the information that was handed to me. So, with that said, that's how we lost Dallas Wilson. Jamie French, apparently, this got a little closer than Texas fans may want to admit. There was a bit of a nagging feeling with him. This is, again, according to, this is third-hand information at this point, but according to some of the information I've gotten, he was very close to pulling the trigger to Florida. Other people spoke. He changed his mind on his own. It wasn't that he was literally forced, but he was talked into. And apparently, by the end of the conversation, he seemed to be genuinely, authentically happy to go to Texas. So that's what happened there. But again, I wasn't in that room. This is a game of telephone. There have been 2 people in between him and myself to relay the information. I don't know what gets lost in translation. That's just what was told to me. So those guys, again, with Vernell Brown in the class and those other guys that I mentioned with Aiden Mizell, Eugene Wilson, Tank Hawkins, TJ Abrams, all coming back for Florida, you think, all right, well, that sucks, but we've got other options there. The miss that really sucks is Solomon Thomas. That's a 5-star offensive lineman. You knew he wasn't going to stick with FSU, but I thought Florida had a good chance to flip him. It was never a sure thing, but whenever you're in the game for a 5-star offensive lineman, it sucks to lose him. Whether he's a tackle or a guard or a center, doesn't matter. Five-star offensive linemen are the type of guys that you can build a program around, especially when you've already got DJ Lagway in the fold. So that's going to sting. Tavares Dice is a nice pickup for Florida. He's a very good offensive tackle. And again, of course, there's the possibility of going portal and Napier finding hidden gems there. But losing Solomon Thomas is a pretty hurtful loss. So again, I'll cite the article that I wrote about a year ago now, going back to January of 24, talking about David Sanders, Riley Pettyjohn, Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, and Solomon Thomas, along with Hilton Stubbs, as the 10 guys that the Florida Gators really had to get in this class for it to be an elite one. Guys like Sanders and Pettyjohn and Owusu Boateng, Florida lost out on early. And also, if you remember the show I did back in the offseason about how the bad losses that Florida had on the field in 2023 would continue to have consequences off the field that would be felt long after those games went final. Well, Florida losing to Arkansas, Missouri, and FSU, games that Florida was in and probably should have won all three of them. You win those games, and now you're 8-4 and not 5-7. Those three losses that changed the Florida record from what would have been 8-4 to what it was at 5-7. Those three losses took the Gators out of the running for those three commits before the Gators even really had a chance at them. But with that said, the flip side of that was because, in part to those losses, Florida was out of the running for those guys so early that they had time to rebound. And they did. Ty Jackson at linebacker at the last minute from USC. Miles Johnson's for some depth there. Okay, maybe that is a plan B. Maybe that's a backup plan. But it's a lot better to go with your backup plan than to not have a backup plan to go with to begin with. And the same thing in offensive tackle, because Pettyjohn and Owusu Boateng, elite linebackers in the class of 25. Florida got very good linebackers, I thought. Same thing with offensive tackle. You miss on David Sanders, 5-star offensive tackle. So you go all in on trying to flip Tavares Dice, and you get it. So, okay, backup options are not your primary options, but there's certainly plans that you can go forward with a positive mindset. You can say, okay, we'll be okay. Coach them up, maybe be a little bit more work in the coaching department, maybe a little bit more technically sound, or maybe they need to bulk up a little bit more. But whatever it is that's keeping them from being a 5-star recruit in the first place, you go, okay, they're not that far off. We're going to be okay. Missing on Solomon Thomas really stings because you knew he was going to waiver from FSU. You would have liked him to flip to you and not to another rival in LSU, and we did not have a great plan B there. Daniel Pierre-Louis could be another one of those hidden gems. He's a 3-star prospect, but as we've seen with guys like Bryce Thornton and Jaden Baugh, Jacoby Jackson, and Aaron Gates, Florida has had a history of getting some hidden gems in the 3-star department. But even if Daniel Pierre-Louis that's just one. That's only one. You need more than that. So now there's a gaping hole in your recruiting class on the interior of the offensive line. And now we have no choice but to go portal and hope we hit the jackpot in it. And of course, the kicker here, I laugh thinking about this. The kicker here is that LSU's offensive line coach is Brad Davis, who coached at Florida during the Jim McElwain years, and he just stuck it to the Gators in a big way. But the topic everyone's talking about is Dallas Wilson. So, all right, fine. We'll address that in a little bit more detail. When a kid tells you he's coming, you absolutely don't just cease communication like in sales. You have to keep communication lines open to protect what you've got. But it does change things a little bit because you're not courting or selling him anymore. But here's the thing. I don't talk to Billy Napier or Billy Gonzalez. I don't have those lines of communication myself. There are people fairly close to the situation there that I talked to that really thought Florida had him. Like I said a minute ago, as recently as sunrise on Wednesday, there were people in Gainesville who know more than I do who really thought he was coming to Gainesville, and he just didn't. But here is the thing, and this is going to be positive. I'm going to spin this in a positive way now. I know everyone calls me negative, Neil, so here we go with positivity. Go back to what I said earlier about the Florida receiver room. I've said this, I believe, two prior times on this show about how Florida has Eugene Wilson. They lost Andy Jean, but they have Vernell Brown. They're going to have Moise Tonkara. They're going to have six guys in there between Tank Hawkins and TJ Abrams. They're going to have six guys in that room that I trust Florida to either have develop in the future or can produce right away. So again, you're going to have to go portal because Dallas Wilson's one guy, but Florida is going to be okay there. And this is a great thing because this is a lesson that Florida could have learned the hard way, the really hard way, because you can't put all your eggs in one basket, especially at wide receiver. In fact, you really can't do it at any position aside from quarterback. And even then, it's a good idea to have backup plans. So I'm going to give Billy Napier a compliment here. Florida has done a great job of loading up its wide receiver room with playmakers so that the loss of Dallas Wilson isn't a killer. It's a shock, and it still doesn't feel great. You wanted to have him, but our previous work at the wide receiver position makes Dallas Wilson a luxury and not a necessity. You like luxury, right? We'd all like to live in mansions. But if we have a roof over our head in a nice 2-3 bedroom house, we're fine. We don't need it. Florida is going to be okay without it. So again, I don't like being trolled like that. I don't like being lied to if it was a lie. If he genuinely did just have a change of heart, okay, whatever. The bottom line is none of that matters because this is 17-year-old kids that we're talking about. You have to be ready for this to happen and have a chain of other players at that position coming through that make any potential surprise there that doesn't go your way survivable. So Florida did that. Nice job, Billy Napier and crew. Okay, so that is the wrap up on Dallas Wilson. Now let's do a little bit of class superlatives to wrap up the show. Hardest earned recruiting win, and Chris will do his on a separate day. But again, our schedules didn't align, so I'm doing mine now. He'll do his on a separate day. Hardest earned recruiting win. So essentially, who did Florida have to work the hardest to get to commit? I'm going to say that is Hilton Stubbs because he'd committed to not one, but two schools that were not the Florida Gators. First, USC, and then the Miami Hurricanes. Florida stayed after him. They were relentless in their pursuit of Hilton Stubbs. He was the top guy on their priority list, aside from maybe Vernell Brown. He was the guy that Florida wanted at safety. They went and they got him. That was a very, very nice pickup for Florida. And that's actually going to answer the next question. The best head-to-head recruiting win over a rival. Stubbs would be a great pick here because Miami is a rival of ours. Whether or not we play them every year, we definitely are rivals on the recruiting trail. I'm going to go with a different one here. And Florida won this one a long, long time ago. Jalen Wiggins from Tallahassee, Florida, Gator. You would think that when you have a guy who's a 4-star athlete from Tallahassee, Florida, it's going to be an uphill battle. But Florida went and they got him very early in the cycle, and then they held him. That is an impressive job by the Florida Gator staff to get him early, not even let it come down to being a last-second decision or last week of the cycle decision. No, he committed to Florida in January, on January 15th, after an unofficial visit the previous weekend. And he was very interested in FSU. He visited them on June 10th. He visited them on March 8th. He visited them on January 28th. He visited them on November 25th of 2022. The other three I talked about were in 2023, by the way. He also, you know what? I'll go back and I'll just count them up. Official visit, June 21st, school of 24. June 12th, 2024, did a school camp there. June 5th, 2024, school camp there. April 20th, unofficial visit to FSU. March 23rd of 24, unofficial visit. January 20th of 24, 5 days after he committed to Florida, was the FSU Junior Day. He was also in Tallahassee, or he lives in Tallahassee, but he was on FSU's campus on June 10th of 23 for a camp, March 8th, 23 for an unofficial visit, January 28th, 2023 for Junior Day, November 25th of 22 for an unofficial visit for their game against Florida. Also, he was there on October 15th for their visit for their game against Clemson. FSU also had him on campus for games against Wake Forest and against Boston College. And he also attended as a sophomore their camp for offensive linemen. The Seminoles had him on their campus for 1 game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, five, six, 9 times he visited their campus, and for 4 games. The Seminoles won all 4 of those games. Florida won the battle for Jalen Wiggins. Huge recruiting victory for the Florida Gators. Dark horse on offense in this class. I had a difficult time thinking about this. I wanted to go Nashawn Montgomery because everyone's talking about Dallas Wilson and Jamie French, and I think that Nashawn Montgomery could be one of those hidden gems. I'm going to go Waltez Clark, the running back, because if we've learned anything about Billy Napier's offense, it's that you can insert a running back with fresh legs, watch him run for 6 hard-earned yards, and Napier might just stick with him. He does, generally speaking, believe in the hot hand with his running backs. So Waltez Clark is going to be stepping into a running back room that is going to lose Montrell Johnson. It will have 3 other guys there, Jaden Ball and Jacoby Jackson, along with Trayon Webb. I wouldn't be shocked if Waltez Clark works his way up the depth chart fairly quickly and at least becomes RB3, if not even RB2. I like his upside, and I think if he bulks up just a little bit, he's 194 right now. He bulks up just a little bit more, he could earn himself some carries. The dark horse on defense. I was torn on this one as well. I wanted to say Stephon Shivers because, anytime you get a guy from Georgia, you think, all right, there's value here. I'm going to go Miles Johnson, the linebacker that Florida got from Bruton, Alabama. This is a big get for Florida because, again, this is one of those 3 stars that you look at and go, well, wait, why is he a 3-star? He was committed to Alabama for a very long time. Why is he a 3-star? And then you look at the other offers he's got, Ole Miss, Washington, LSU. There's legitimate interest in him from some of the other big programs in the SEC. Florida gets him to come to Florida. He is going to be on campus, and I would not be shocked if, yes, I know Florida has a good linebacker room right now, Shamar James, Aaron Childs, and Miles Graham. It wouldn't shock me if he got some looks. I'm not saying that he's going to start as a freshman. He probably won't play very much as a freshman, but watch for him in his sophomore and junior seasons to maybe take that leap and maybe become something at the middle level of the Florida defense with the passage of time, with some development. That is the dark horse on defense. Most likely to play as a freshman on offense, Vernell Brown. I think that one is kind of the obvious pick, but again, he's a 4-star / 5-star, depending on the ranking system you trust. Elite playmaker. You maybe would like to see him bulk up a little bit. He's only 170 pounds, but he puts on some muscle mass. He's going to be very, very difficult for other teams to stop. So I would be shocked if he does not play as a freshman next year. Most likely to play as a freshman on defense. I'm torn here between Hilton Stubbs and Ben Hanks. I've already used Hilton Stubbs once and probably would have used him again for a different one. Both the hardest earned recruiting win and best head-to-head recruiting win over a rival. I guess I'll use him again. It's one of Hilton Stubbs or Ben Hanks. Florida does have some holes in the secondary. It's not a bad secondary that we're looking at next year, but there definitely were some, shall we say, misses there. I think that's the most polite way to put it. There's going to be opportunities for these guys to jump into the starting lineup as freshmen. Maybe not week 1, but maybe, by the Georgia game next year for these guys to be seeing time immediately. The best recruit, the commit who worked the hardest to get other recruits to Florida. I'm going to say this one is, I'm torn on this one too. I'm going to say this one is Waltez Clark again, because he was the first one to commit. He's got, from what I hear, again, I've never met the kid, but from what I hear, he's got this quiet but firm vibe about him that, hey, come on, Come on, you're fine. Come on to Florida. We're gonna build something special here. Not, super loud or with any bravado, but he's just got this quiet confidence about him that makes others want to play with him. And of course, he was the first one to commit to the Florida Gators, so he's been the one recruiting for the Gators the longest. You could also say Byron Lewis, the running back, has been pretty vocal on Twitter, but again, he was only in the class for a few days before he signed, so it's kind of hard to gauge that one. But yeah, I'm going to say that one goes to Waltez Clark, the best player in the class overall. That's got to be Vernell Brown. He is, again, just an elite level wide receiver. I don't care where Dallas Wilson and Jamie French are ranked versus Vernell Brown Jr. He is an elite playmaker at wide receiver. So again, I think that he's going to need some help from the offensive line to block long enough for DJ Lagway to go through his progressions next year. Florida's going to lose some offensive linemen, as we know, to graduation. They've been here for 4 years. It's time for Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter to move on. But the Florida Gators, if they get their offensive line in order and they let DJ Lagway do what he can do with time, I believe Vernell Brown is going to be the best player in this class. And that wraps it up for this show with all kinds of weather forecasts. If you enjoyed this, rate, review, leave a comment. What do you think of the Gators class? What do you think of Vernell Brown or Ben Hanks or Miles Johnson or anyone that Florida got, or Nashawn Montgomery or anyone? Who's, to you, who is going to be the Gators' best overall recruit in the class? What do you think of all of our superlatives? All that. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. Again, be sure to rate, review, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Neil Shulman for the All Kinds of Weather Forecast, signing off.